you very much. It's an honor for me to be here for the fourth time in a row. It's very special conference, I think, with an amazing atmosphere, really outstanding event. So always a pleasure to be here. And this time I want to share some experiences that we made during the last 1.5 years with our Scrum Masters, especially because it's a story about self-organization. And I think this is the core of what we are talking about. So yeah, I would like to share my ideas, and I'm always curious what questions you have, what's your feedback, because this is always a new perspective for me as well, so I can learn a lot from you. So I'm very much looking forward to the interactive part in the end. And in case you have any questions, understanding wise in between, just let me know so that I can maybe clarify things. I have some slides, so I will share my screen. I hope this works. Now, so here we go. Can you see my screen? Yes, I see.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So as Ashish always said, I'm working at HDI Global. I will talk about the company a few minutes later. First, a few words about me. So I'm responsible for the agile transformation there. I have a degree in electrical engineer, so I came from the technical point of view, but experienced very early that it's always about the people, and the people are key in the progress, in the process and in the progress. So that's why I decided to jump in all the transformation and process stuff. I worked for different companies in different branches. I'm also I'm founding startups. I have just a new one, so it's 3 at the moment. It's just the entrepreneurial part of me. I'm an author and speaker, as you can see, and in my free time, I am a sailor, and I really enjoy building Lego. So this is also part of me. If you want to contact me, I would be very happy if you do so. You can do that on LinkedIn as well as on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, you can also send me an email in case you would like to ask any questions afterwards, or in case just to talk about topics I really like to exchange with people. So feel invited to do so. I'm working for HDI Global, which is part of the Talanx Group. The Talanx Group has been founded in 1903, so now it's 120 years old company, which always is about old structures and hierarchies, as you can imagine. But nevertheless, it's a very great idea because it's yeah, the liability association of the German industry, and still the German industry is owning the company, and we are doing all the insurance business that you can imagine with 24,000 employees in very many countries of the world. And the headquarters is in Hanover, Germany, where I am today as well. So I'm working for the left part, the industrial insurance part, and we are about 4,000 people worldwide, and also in very many countries and continents. And yeah, we are trying to become agile, to change our very traditional structures, and we are doing that for a while now. And we had some nice successes, I think, in the last month on self-organization, which I would like to share with you. Where did we start? We started in 2019, so about 4 years ago now, and we heard things like this, like, who ordered that? It's always delivered what nobody wants. So our IT delivery was like this, and we recognized that 5-year plans are unrealistic. So who can look into the future? And we had very different or difficult situation with the legacy landscape, cost overrun, time overrun, insufficient quality, and of course, we cannot stay like this. And one of the biggest problems was that that we had a survey, and the people answered that the majority answered that they would not recommend working at HDI Global IT. So that's why we decided to change something, and the question now was what to do. And because you need to deliver high quality software, the cost should not overrun, time of course should be fine, and the people need to be happy again. So what to do? And like in many companies, probably the answer was, let's try to become more agile. And how did we do that? We chose SAFE, and some of you might say, "Oh, SAFE, that doesn't sound very agile." And indeed, there is a fixed schedule on the left, which you might know from the SAFE framework, and we've exactly followed this for the first 2 years. Did a lot of trainings, implemented ceremonies, implemented roles, changed roles, started with quarterly plannings and so on. So we did it exactly the same. But the problem is it's only about structures, processes, and methods. And after 2 years, you are through this kind of snake, have done all the trainings and implemented all the structures. Everyone has a new role. But the problem is that does not mean that you change anything on the mindset. And we recognize that only the implementation of SAFE does obviously not mean to successfully transform the organization. And it's more about developing from a hierarchy to a network organization. The next 2 slides are slides that I already showed last year, but I think they are still very important and still very valid. So that's why I show them again. Where we start from is this, like this. It's a hierarchy. It's probably something that everyone knows who works in a very big organization. And the question is now, how can we get from the hierarchy to the network, where everyone is talking to each other, regardless of any positions in the companies, because this is basically the core of an agile organization. It's not about any methods or frameworks. And the question is, how can everyone in the organization take over responsibility, show ownership, become a leader? And why is it so important that we especially understand this part in an organization, a traditional organization like ours? It's because we probably won't change the hierarchy from now to tomorrow. It will take some time to change the organizational structure of the company. I mean, we are 4,000 people, and it's really a hard development to change organizational structures that are also very old already. But I always tell the people in the company that they should rather forget the organization. They should think about this this cone, and when you think about taking it on the top and pulling it to you, something like this starts to happen. And in the end, every hierarchical organization can be a network organization. It just depends on how you interact with others and how you act in the organization. So we thought about not changing the organizational structure because we see that it's difficult. But what we can change is how we behave. we can inspire people to behave differently. And where we started is that we started with our Scrum Masters, and we invented an individual empowerment program for them. So we called it the Scrum Master Empowerment. And what we did is a nearly 6-month program, or 4 months program. We started with a kickoff. We implemented coaching workshops from our internal agile coaches, where the Scrum Master were able to improve their coaching skills. And then we started something different. We did not do, again, some trainings and the same training for everyone. We started to do this kind of workshop row. We had 5 workshops in a row. Before we started, we did some baselining. So we checked where our Scrum Masters are, and if they are already knowing a lot of the methods and the framework and so on. And then we started with the workshops. The first workshop was about the Scrum Master's the Scrum Master's role, as well as the Scrum Master as a leader. Because the first thing that we recognized was that the Scrum Masters were a little bit shy and they did not act as leaders. So we thought that it would be the most important thing to understand that the Scrum Master's role is a leader's role. And after that workshop, we started to decrease the content that were decided by me or decided by the trainers team. And we increased the content part that the Scrum Master gave to the workshops. So in the 5th workshop, the Scrum Masters were deciding what they want to talk about, and the trainers team were only reacting to what the Scrum Masters found the most important in their current day-to-day business. And that was really an interesting process, because in the middle, it was very difficult for the Scrum Masters to prioritize the topics. And that was an interesting experience for them, because we always tell the product owners to prioritize the backlog, and we don't understand why it's so difficult for them. And then the Scrum Masters also experienced how difficult it can be to prioritize their own learning backlog. And we accompanied the workshops by individual one-on-one coachings by external coaches. So the Scrum Masters were also able to discuss their individual topics with coaches in between the workshops. And we also invented the buddy concept, means that the Scrum Masters went together, usually 2 Scrum Masters or sometimes 3. And we started with this buddy sessions where they're talking about what happens in their business and how they can support each other. If there are any questions, they discuss it. And what is really nice is that we started with the empowerment program in 2020, in August 2020, and there are still buddy groups running. So they are still people talking about day-to-day business, helping each other on a very regular basis now, which is coming from the empowerment program. When we came to an end of the program, we did the second baselining. So we did another baselining showing that the Scrum Masters really increased in their skills and knowledge, and also in their understanding, which was really nice, because what it was like is this, can this be successful, although it's not a scheduled training, and it was, what is really nice. And the main outcome, or we had different main outcomes, but one was really the understanding of how transparency, inspection, and adaptation works on a daily business and in every question. Here are some of the results. So we had also some failures, which I want to share. First one is some are trapped in their history means that the length or the duration, how long people are in the company, decreases the ability to get feedback or to understand or to use feedback at least, which was very interesting that there was a correlation. We also experienced that some of the Scrum Masters came to the training or to the workshop and expected a training like the trainer is telling you what's right, and then you can learn it and then you can use it, or however. And some of them were really surprised that the workshops were about working on themselves through the workshop sessions, but that at least that improved during the sessions. We had some personal insecurities, so we recognized that some Scrum Masters did not believe in themselves, which was very interesting because it was some kind of hypothesis that we had in the beginning, and we saw that it's really true that some Scrum Masters, at least the younger ones, are sometimes insecure, and this is really what we wanted to address with the program and what we were able to address. We also although we had already 2 years of transformation behind, we saw that the role of the Scrum Masters was still unclear in some cases and that we had to define it. And there were also some positive aspects. We really achieved greater impact, and of course it was ways cheaper than safe implementation and all the trainings and stuff that you go through. And many of the Scrum Masters are now getting into their performance, but we can still see that not everyone does already. We are about 30 Scrum Masters, so this is what we are talking about. What also has been a good news is that people started to take over responsibilities for themselves, but we also saw that it's still difficult. We saw that empirical work is understood and lived now, which is well, really the basis. So it's a very important outcome for us. And we had some of them who really absorbed all the things that we discussed in the program. And we believe that happened because they were able to decide what we are talking about in the progress. And what we can also see is that self-management really got a boost. And on the next slide, I have some examples how we can see this now and why we think that the program really paid off. The first one is that we were able to refocus and to reorganize our so-called Agile family. The Agile family consists of Scrum Masters, release train engineers, Agile coaches, and communications, transformation, and change experts, about 45 people. And what we saw before we did the empowerment program was that that it was difficult to work together and really forget the organizational structure because not everyone is in the same department. So we really needed to build the community and to work regardless of any departments and areas. And it was a really nice event to found the Agile family. And now we are really able to focus on the transformation and not on any roles. And we also started to work not only in the role of a Scrum Master or a release train engineer in the day-to-day business, but we also work on topics that are related to our goals that we now discuss every quarter. And we have also some that what we call crews, where we work on topics like how to develop the capability of the Scrum Masters, release train engineers, agile coaches, where we discuss things like how to improve our capabilities, how our method skills, how can we get new methods into the company, and so on. So this is what we discuss there. And in quarterly planning events, we now decide what to do next, and we align that with the company's goals and strategies. What is really, basically new and cool to see how that works out. The second example is our Agile Marketplace, because this is a format that has been developed because we have more teams than we do have Scrum Masters. It's probably the situation in larger organizations very often that we have more teams than Scrum Masters, because there are not there are not very many Scrum Masters on the market. So this is the situation. And then we invented the Agile Marketplace, where teams can pitch their demand. They can say, hey, we are the greatest team in the world, and we have the best topic, and we have the most modern tool stack in the world, and it's a great experience to work with us. So it would be nice if you would become our Scrum Master. And so we have some kind of pitching event every quarter as well. And then the Scrum Masters and release train engineers and agile coaches discuss how they can cover all the demands. And they do that very self-organized already. In the first run, it was crazy. It didn't work out at all. So I had to decide in the end who does what. And of course, then I had to make a decision, because that's basically my responsibility in the end when you come from a traditional point of view. And they actually didn't like the decision. So then they came up with a lot of energy, and then they invented a process how to cover all the demands. And now we do it for the 4th time, and we started in February with 11 demands, and we covered already 10 of them. And in 2 weeks we have our next PI planning, also our next quarterly planning. And I'm very optimistic that we will cover also the last demand. And that's a really great thing that the group is able to do that on their own, and they do not need any leadership person anymore. And I believe that this is only possible because they had this program where they understood their role and their responsibility. Here you can see that I blurred it actually because of team names and so on, and names. But as you can see, we do that in Miro, which seems to be a good tool for that. We are also distributed, so it helps us that not everyone needs to come together all the time. And that works out very well in Miro. And also the pitches we do online. And that we can cover 11 demands with 45 people, and many teams that already there. We have nearly the number of teams that we have, like the number of people that we have. So it doesn't work out one-on-one. Of course, that's why we do have the demands. And that we can do that is only possible because Scrum Masters are willing to change their teams. They are willing to leave their release train and go to another release train. It's only possible because release train engineers are willing to take over the responsibility for a team. It's only possible because agile coaches are willing to take over the responsibility for a team. And that's really cool to see how the group takes over responsibility as a group and does not wait for any leader to decide. And the last example is our Agile Family Awards. This is a new experiment. We did it 2 times now. We have a quarterly kind of bonus system in the company where leaders can decide who did a great job or a better job or even more performance than usually, and then can hand over some money, some extra money every quarter. And yeah, I did it, of course, as a leader. It's my responsibility. And I then thought that it would be nicer if the group would decide who gets this extra money. And money is always a difficult thing. So I was not sure if this works, but it did. It was really nice to see that the group was also able to find some rules, how they want to assign people for the extra money, and how they come up with the nominations, which is the second step in the process. And then we have a voting round 1, where they vote for the 3 kind of winners. They also decided themselves that it will be 3. When I came up with the idea and I asked them, hey, do you want to do it on your own? And they said yes. I also expected that it can happen that I have 45 nominations because they nominate everyone. So I was very happy to see that they immediately started with 3 people to vote for. And then we have a voting round 2, where they put the 3 people in relation to each other. And then we have a closing and feedback session, as well as some celebration for the people who won. And then I hand it over to our HR, who then assigns the money in the next round. Yeah, so that was really nice to see that also something that is related to money, which is always difficult, works out very well. And also here, I believe that we would not be able to do this 2 years ago. And now we are able to do this because we had our empowerment program, and we had a really self-management boost through this program. Nevertheless, also I think we make great progress, and we are kind of proud that we made the steps in a very traditional and, as I said, hierarchical environment. But there's still a lot to do, and it will be great to see what we can achieve next. Thank you very much. That's something for the beginning. And now I'm very interested in your questions.
Thank you so much, Juliane. Wonderful. Can we switch off your presentation and then come to the Q&A round? Will it make sense?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we already have some good questions coming in. I would suggest all of us to put in more questions so that we can have even more exciting conversations. Before I actually go into the questions that we have on Mentimeter, Juliane, if you can give us a sense of the timeline, like you talked about 3 different programs, the Scrum Master Empowerment Program, Agile Marketplace, and Agile Family Awards. So how much time has gone by so far when you introduced these programs into the company for the first time? So that is my first part of the question. And second is a sense of the numbers. Like you mentioned about total number of people in HDA Global in the beginning, but I'm assuming that probably we would have different numbers for the IT division. If that is correct, then how many people, and then how many of them went through some Scrum Master program, how many participated in the marketplace, and all of that. Timelines and please.
Yeah, we started with the empowerment program in 2019. So in end of 2019, it's sorry, 2020, not 2019, 2020, sorry. So about 2.5 years ago now. And the empowerment program itself ended in the beginning of 2021. And since then, we developed the marketplace. So the marketplace activities started in spring 2021. Sorry, no, I'm 1 year too early. I started in the company in 2021. So again, we started in the end of 2021 with the empowerment program. In 2022, so last year, we started to implement the marketplace stuff. So it's 1.5 years now. Sorry.
Okay.
And we in the IT division, we are about 450 people now. It's about 10% of the entire company, and another 10% of them are in our Agile family. And nearly everyone participated in the empowerment program.
Great. You mean everyone from the IT division participated in the empowerment program?
No, 10% of them. So all the people who are Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, research and engineers, and so on. So it's another 10% of the IT department. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm actually curious, like, as we are talking about the numbers here, I'm curious, like, what has been the impact of all these programs on the overall company? Like, is it too early to talk about that, or there are already some ripples that you can notice? Like from the IT division, real agile transformation, what kind of ripples have flown or gone to the whole company, the other divisions?
Yeah, so I think there's a impact, like the Scrum Masters and Agile coaches and so on are really seen as expert now. So the entire organization perceives them as people you can ask if you have any questions on the Agile transformation, which is great. And also departments who did not start their journey are now coming to us asking, can you help us? Can you support our start with the Agile transformation, like the finance department or the marketing department and so on. So different other departments are now outside IT are now coming to us and ask if we can support them. And of course we do that. And this something that helps us as an entire company to become more agile.
That's wonderful. All right. So one question in the Mentimeter that we have is coming back to the IT division, how was the whole program perceived by the top management in that time?
The top management supports the entire development very much, which is very important. We could not do that without them. One is that we of course received the budget for this program. We did not plan it in the beginning of 2021, so it was some extra budget, and they believe in the Agile transformation and they believe in our ideas, so we were allowed to do it. So that's one. And what is also really nice, that they adopted our vocabulary. So they are also talking about the Agile family, and they know what the Agile marketplace is and so on. So I think it's always a good sign if it's kind of natural when the CEO is talking about the Agile family in his town hall meetings. That's really cool. And yeah, he also, or the entire top management, supports experiments, and they don't require that me, or they don't require me deciding on the capacities. They allow us to do something like the Agile Marketplace, and I think that's really cool. And they can see the successes. So luckily, the top management is very aware and very interested in the topics and supports them.
That's really good to know, Juliane. Thank you so much. Another question that we have is related to the Scrum Master Empowerment Program. You mentioned a timeline of 4 to 5 months. The question is, could there be an opportunity to continually develop the self-management skills of the Agile family?
Yes, the program with our external trainers was only 4 months, and we even offered the Scrum or the Agile family to continue the workshops, for example, every quarter. But they very early they decided that they want to do it on their own, because they saw that they have learned a lot how to solve problems and how to structure topics and so on. So they then developed their own formats for knowledge transfer, for example. And that's why we ended the program officially with the external consultancy. But we actually did not stop the activities. So we are continuously developing.
Okay. And I'm really curious, like, how did you create more, in this whole process, how did you create more psychological ownership, safety, self-drivenness among the people in the whole organization?
Yeah, the entire empowerment program helped us a lot, because a part of the empowerment program was to get to know each other better. Usually we had the fact that some Scrum Masters even did not know each other, because they are working in different release trains and they do not have to do anything with the others during their daily business. So we started with getting to know each other, and now, or from now on, we started last October, I think. We started with offsites where we meet in person, so that everybody gets to know each other better and can talk about whatever in the evenings and so on. And so we are really working on psychological safety. It's one of our core topics at the moment, to improve that also for the other departments. So we think about how to develop it, because we think it's really key for continuous improvement. And yeah, so we do it like taking time for getting to know each other. I think this is the core.
At this point, Juliane, would it be possible for you to share about your own personal journey? Like, I believe you have been in this organization for about 11 years, right? You mentioned that in the beginning. So how have you as a person transformed along with this process? Like, what kind of changes do you notice within, like with respect to the ownership, with respect to your value system, with respect to your connection with people, with respect to the wholeness, the way with which you carry yourself at work, all of that? If it would be possible for you to share that, please.
Yeah, so I'm in this organization since 2021, so nearly 2.5 years now. And but I I used to be in organizations like this, so old, traditional, big organizations on their way changing their structures. But nevertheless, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, when I became an official leader, it was completely different. I was in a technical organization at that time. All the leaders around me were old white men, and me in the middle with 26 years, and was like a lot of hierarchy in that, and how you interact with each other was very traditional. And so of course, or probably, I adopted some of this behavior in the beginning, but luckily I was too young to say, hey, I'm the most experienced and best and whoa person. That was of course that was not possible, because I was the youngest in the department, and I was the last one who joined the department. So obviously everyone else did know the subject better than I could, and therefore I had to find a different role as a leader anyway. So I tried to be part of the team, just with a different role, more working on framework conditions, creating the atmosphere, and so on. So that was a good lesson to start with agile leadership in the beginning. And but nevertheless, I had an experience later on. It's already, I think, 8-9 years ago, where I was in a team. It was still a traditional organization. I was the department leader, but nevertheless, we decided to do Scrum for our projects, and also within our department. So internally I became kind of product owner, and then but in the external view, of course, I stayed as a department leader. But anyways, I hired an external Scrum Master, because I thought that I would need someone who can tell me the truth without being afraid of any consequences. And that's why I hired an external Scrum Master. And then we had a retrospective once, where the people found out that we have some problems with delivering our results, because before we decided on a 4 eyes principle, where I had to be involved. So everything went through my hands. Everything was piling up on my desk, and it was not possible for me to go through all the things before the review, and that's why everything was piling up, and we did not get anything done. And then in that retrospective, one of the people said, hey, you are the bottleneck. And you can imagine what that does or what that did with me, because it was like, oh, they are telling me that I am not able to do the job, that I'm too slow, that I'm whatever. It was like that they don't like me, whatever. I heard everything in that situation. But what they said was, I'm the bottleneck, and it was true. And then they decided on the process that the 4i principle is a good idea, but not with me. So they decided to change the definition of done from 4i's principle with Juliane to 4i's principle with anyone from the team. And then I remembered all the things that I had seen in the results, and where I had to say, no, we have to correct it. It's there are some mistakes in it or whatever. And I thought, God, and it was like, no, we won't do that like that, because I was so afraid of all the customers shouting at me. And in that minute, I wanted to say that. The Scrum Master said, don't say anything. It's not your turn. The team now has to do it, and it's not your turn. And it was like, wow, the entire day run by, I was really done for the day. It was horrible. But I didn't say anything. And what happened was that the quality increased because everyone had to sign with their own names. And it was no longer the 4I principles with me. And the speed, of course, the delivery speed increased. And it was an amazing result. And this was a very important situation for me, because in that situation, you can see that how easy it is to destroy self-organization. Because if I would not have had the Scrum Master saying, don't say anything, I would have had said something, and it would have been wrong. Because I would have said something like, no, we don't do that. I decide, I'm the manager, yeah. And I can decide it. And they would never, ever in their lives came up with any idea in that direction for the next, I don't know, 10 years, probably. So it was really great to see. And I should have been very proud in that situation, because at least the people came up with criticism. They said, you are the bottleneck. You, who is the disciplinary leader, you are the bottleneck. And I really should have been proud. But in that situation, I was not able to be proud. But afterwards, I am a little bit. That we have that psychological safety in that moment. That was really cool. Still a nice memory. Yeah, and a very important memory also, that in that regard, that I think that when you are transforming an organization which is old and big and hierarchy, has a hierarchy and so on, I think it's very important to have someone helping you through this, because the leadership has to change in two ways. They have to behave differently when they help the people, when supporting the people. So that's different. They have to support the people getting through the transformation, and on the other side, they have to reinvent themselves. And so these two tasks are way too much for one person, I think. And that's why I would always recommend leaders in a transformation situation to have someone helping them through the situation. Even though I thought I would be kind of agile, and I think that through my history, I have a good access to all the values and so on. It was still difficult in this situation, because we are all people, and you have some emotions in that moment, and it's so easy to understand something wrong. And yeah, so that's one of my stories in this regard. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Juliane, for sharing your personal struggles and challenges. Everybody, I can see in the chat that everyone is moved with your story. Thank you so much. While I was listening to you right now, what came to me is, I'm sure these kind of struggles would be happening with others as well in the company, right? Because it's like there is this new way of working, and at the same time, then you have to also personally transform yourselves from within to actually kind of become aligned with this new way of working. My question is, how do you hold space within the organization to kind of invite people to be vulnerable, to share their stories, and to kind of overcome the struggles that are happening within?
That's pretty difficult, because of course sometimes you have situations that are where the pressure is high, and everyone is watching the numbers coming up, and something needs to be done, and so on. So sometimes it's really difficult to create this space, how you called it, for people telling the stories. But I always try to share my own story, to be kind of role model in that regard. And I also try to inspire others to tell their stories as well, and take them some time in a meeting, even though the story is different in a meeting, because I think it's so important that to understand that that we are all human beings, and that we need to find opportunities to share to share those stories. So we do not have any formats for that, like I don't know, evenings where we only talk about what failures we had in our lives. So we don't do that. But we also create a lot of knowledge transfer space, where we can talk about our own stories. And I also invite the Scrum Masters to share their stories. Sometimes they tell me their stories in one-on-ones, for example, and then I ask them if they would be prepared to share the story also with the others, and that's very, very helpful. And the same for leadership rounds.
That's brilliant. There is this question about top management, like what happens when somebody from the top management goes through such kind of a journey? Like, do they have any support with respect to, like, is there someone who is kind of holding the space for them?
Yeah, the top leadership is very aware of the topic themselves, so they are focusing on this also during their offsite meetings, for example, and we also remind them to do so in meetings. For example, where they have guests from the organization, for example, when the Scrum Masters present something to the management, and then we remind them to share their stories also, so that the people just see that they are also human beings and not robots in the top management, and that you do not need to transform from a human being to a robot if you want to be top manager. And where we also talk about personal stories is within our PI planning opening speeches. So our quarterly planning sessions that we have, we start always with a with the opening speech, and usually our CTO is sharing some of his ideas, and he does it also very personally, just to make sure that everyone understands that it's okay to share personal things. Yeah.
Great. We have actually tons of questions, and I just want to point it out at this point that after this session, in next 5 minutes, all of us will actually go to the spatial chat, and we will have an opportunity to continue our conversations and have an open dialogue. One question that I wanted to ask Juliane is, what, according to you, are the values in action? Like, I'm not asking about the values that the organizations may have written on a piece of paper. I'm asking about the values that you feel on a daily basis, like as a human being while you're working in the organization. So how would, like, if you have to highlight 2 or 3 values, what would they be?
So the first value that I need to highlight is definitely togetherness, maybe. This is something that the entire company really focuses on. that it's not possible to do something on your own. You need to do it together, and you can really feel it that people are helping each other and supporting each other, and that we are able to leave departmental structures behind and support cross departmental. So this is probably one of the most important things at the moment, that we really think that we only can win the race together. And the second one, which is at the moment, I would say, in the making, is transparency. This is also really difficult in traditional organizations where people used to work on their own and hide everything they do from others, except the results, if they are good. This is also very important to mention the value of transparency, because we have a huge change at the moment. So, for example, maybe you know that KPI is always a very difficult discussion. Nobody likes values, and now I think 6 months ago, a small group of people started with a working group called Metrics, and now they are working on supporting the teams, how to implement metrics for them, and how to use them and not be afraid of the results, just to see them what they are, numbers, and not connected with any judgment. And so there we can see a huge change at the moment. So I think this is the second thing I want to mention in this regard.
Great, thank you, Juliane. So I can see collaborations or teamwork and transparency as values. One last question before we close this session formally, will be very quick, and then we'll go to special chat. Is what kind of future growth journey do you envision for the company? Like it has been only 2 to 3 years with these experiments. So what kind of future do you envision?
Yeah, we have a maturity model that we follow, that we have defined for our agile transformation for the organization. It has 6 components, always like pairs. First is product and customer. Second is structure and processes. And the third one is employees and leadership. And for all of the categories, we have defined what it means to become more mature, and we have 5 levels of maturity in our model. First one is like trying something, so very beginners level. Second one is kind of doing agile. Third one is being agile. Fourth is living and thinking, and fifth is living. So living is what we call the agile culture then. So this is our ambition, to really implement agility within the entire company and in everyone's mind. And we, at the moment, we estimate ourselves to be between doing and being agile, so between 2 and 3. And of course, our ambition is to become more agile and to do a next step towards 3, towards being agile during the next year.